I'm Nicola, and I know I've met some of you before, but just to give you a bit of background of who I am and why I'm working with Adriana and the team at the GCA. I call myself a social media strategist, which, as my family will tell you, is an excuse to scroll Instagram and pretend I'm working. But my background is in brand licensing, and that's how I've got to know people in the greeting card industry. I worked for around 14 years as a licensor, licensing agent, brand manager, for companies including ITV, Walker Books, and other ones that I'm sure you'll have heard of. I went freelance in just before 2020, thinking that 2020 was going to be my year. So things went a little bit awry, but I'm back on track now. I went freelance because I've got 2 children, and I wanted to work flexibly around them. Slightly ironically, obviously now people work from home all the time, but they didn't then. And I use my background in brand licensing and my social media skills and expertise to help bring brands to life on social media. And I particularly love working with smaller businesses or businesses that haven't had a presence on social media before or haven't had much direction. And I kind of love that light bulb moment when they get it and they can see how it can be really powerful. The reason some of you may know me is I worked with the PG Live team this year on the Instagram for PG Live, and then we've done a few bits and pieces on the Ritas and the Henrys, and there's some things coming up that are going to be talking about as well. And I always say that social media isn't rocket science, but you wouldn't launch a rocket without a strategy. So that's how it's similar to rocket science. It's similar to social media. You need a bit of a strategy behind it, and that's what I'm going to talk you through this morning. So hopefully you can start to see the power of Instagram and how it could really work or kind of really boost your business. I've popped my Instagram QR code on the screen if you want to have a look and contact me. Feel free to tag me in anything you do after the session if you'd like some advice or ask any questions as well. So we're going to go through a few stats about social. We're going to go through a few stats about the social media landscape. Sorry, I had a bit of feedback there. I wasn't sure if someone was asking a question. And then I'm going to talk about optimizing your Instagram, how to create a strategy and what sort of things you might like to consider for it. Look at kind of what, where and when to post on Instagram and different features that Instagram has, and talk a bit around how to create engaging content, collaborate with others, and how to read your insights. Then we'll have some time for questions at the end. So I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this already, and I know a lot of you do an awful lot on social media as it is, but social media is very much here to stay. You may already know this, but there are 4.62 billion social media users in the world, and 45 million of these users are in the UK, which is 66% of the UK population, which is enormous, as I'm sure you don't need me to tell you. And why you should use Instagram, well, these are some stats that I think are really important, and particularly for those of you that perhaps meet a little bit of resistance sometimes from colleagues or suppliers and things saying, oh, why do you need that? Why do you need to do it? Instagram is the 8th most visited website in the world, and it's the 4th most downloaded social media app after Facebook, YouTube and WhatsApp. And that alone shows you the power of Meta. 40% of Gen Z, who are people currently aged 16 to 24, use Instagram or TikTok as their primary search engine. And this is only going to grow, and it's probably going to overtake Google for this age group. So they may not be your current customers, but they are definitely your future customers. And that's why you should really think about using Instagram for your business. So I've got a few slides now where I'm going to talk about how you can optimize your Instagram. And this really means making sure it works for you. It's a bit like, if you like, your shop window. You wouldn't have a shop window and the door of a shop where it doesn't say your opening hours, or it doesn't even say whether you're open, for example. And it's the same thing for this. So the first thing to remind you all of is to think about your profile picture, and are you consistent with other social media platforms? You ideally want your photo to make sure that you're easily recognizable if you're using a photo, or that your logo is identifiable. Some people have gorgeous logos, but they can be quite intricate, and when you think about the size they appear on screen, it's not obvious always obvious who it is. So think about what logo and picture you have. And on the same line, think about your username and your name. And these can be different. They should be different. If you have them exactly the same, you're missing a trick, because they are both searchable, which means they will work for you within SEO and your keywords. Ideally, you want your username, which is the one at the top, to be consistent across all social media platforms. So I am _NJ Webster everywhere, which isn't the most exciting business name, I know, but you want that to be recognizable, so people know how to find you and what they should be looking for. But in your name, you can have more characters. And I've included in mine that my social media strategist, because if somebody was searching for me on Instagram, that's what they would be looking for. Think about the order you put the information in your bio. The first 4 lines are seen before somebody taps more. So you want to make sure the most important information is at the top. And if you have a physical premises, so if you're a retailer, you want the postal address, or certainly the town or the city or the village, to be included somewhere in your bio. You can also add the full address, including postcode or what 3 words location, into the action buttons as well, where it says contact. But location is important, and I'll talk about it when we talk about the different ways you can post and use stickers a bit later on. But if you have got a physical premises and you rely on customers coming into your shop or into your studio to buy products, you want to make sure you're appearing in any searches in your local area. And by including a location there, you'll be shown to correct people that are searching on Instagram, or for anyone that's searching on Google as well. Only mention other accounts if it's relevant. So I organise an annual charity fundraising event for my daughter's school, and I've got that in the bio because locally I'm known as the person that people need to contact if they want to talk about sponsorship. But as soon as you put another link in your bio, you're potentially sending your customers to someone else, and you want to make sure they stay on your page. For the same reason, you don't want to use generic hashtags either. So don't use something like #greeting-card-designer, because if somebody clicks on that, the first thing that it's going to do is take them to a page showing them all the other greeting card designers, and some of those will be your competitors, and then they may go and buy from them rather than you. You want to keep people on your page. Make sure you've got some action buttons set up. So I've got message options, so people can email me, they can phone me, they can WhatsApp me, or they can visit my website. A lot of you will have online shops, so you should think about having a shop button there as well. If nothing else, even if you don't take many sales through your online shop, having your products in it and listed and connected to Instagram means that other people can tag your products, so it's relevant. So for example, if I was to do a reel or a post today about the people that have been on this webinar, when I tag you, it'll give me the option to tag in your products in the shop, which means people that follow me that don't already know about your product might then go and purchase. So it's a win-win situation for everyone to have the shop option included. If you saved any stories to highlights, use branded highlight covers. I've just used ones that are my brand colours. I'm not a graphic designer, and I know a lot of you will have gorgeous designs you could use here in place of my kind of fairly simple designs there. But the reason for this is it kind of reinforces your branding, and it means that people instantly recognise it as your account and kind of reminds everyone who you are. You can also pin up to 3 posts on your profile, and you can see that I've pinned ones about me and how you can work with me. And this is the great way of getting the most important information across to your customers. The idea of pinned post is that if somebody lands on your profile for the first time, they should be able to find out who you are, what you do, and how they can work with you or buy from you, how they can contact you and find out more. You can change the pinned posts at any point, so don't worry if the information changes. For example, on the PG Live account, over time, we've changed whether we've pinned information about registering for the show, whether it's voting in the awards, buying tickets for awards and things like that. So they can vary, but you want to have the information there so people can find out straight away what they need to. So social media works best when there's a strategy behind it. The biggest reason that people are successful on social media is when they're social on it. It's called social media for a reason. And you should really think about how you're interacting with your audience and how you plan to engage with them when you're creating your social media strategy. So you shouldn't think my strategy is just to post 5 times a week, but not to scroll the feed, not to reply to comments, not to interact with my suppliers, my customers, my potential customers. And you should also think about your strategy for how you're going to interact with people that on paper, they may be your competitors, but in something like the greeting card industry, everybody is friends and everybody knows other people. And yes, you might have another company that makes cards, but perhaps you make different sizes, different sorts, different price points, different occasions. You sell to different retailers. So they're not your competitor, they're your friend and your ally, and you want to support them. And how you engage with other people on Instagram will really make a difference to how successful you find Instagram is for your business. And you should think a little bit about what you want to achieve from it. Remember that some people will say, I want to achieve X number of sales. And yes, that's something that you can measure, but you should also think about you want to achieve reaching new audiences, reaching potential customers. Maybe it's collaborating with a celebrity or a designer or an artist, a museum, a retailer, whatever it is you might be. You never know who's looking. So you should set yourself some goals about what you want to achieve. Is it to reach a certain number of accounts, or is it to create a beautiful shop window online that's quick and easy to update compared to perhaps updating a website? Oh, that slide's repeated itself, sorry. So the reason for having a strategy is you don't want to just post and hope for the best. And bringing you back to my analogy about rocket science, you wouldn't launch a rocket without a plan. So why would you just start posting on social media without a plan? And at the same time, when you're thinking about your social media strategy, have a think about your content strategy. Think about who your audience is. And this is something that you will know already from your business, but create each post with somebody in mind. As an example, on the PG Live account, the vast majority of posts are aimed at one of these 4 groups. They're either aimed at current exhibitors, people who've already booked for next year, or they're aimed at people that may be on the fence about whether to book, or they haven't yet committed. And the goal for PG Live is obviously to get them to commit to the stand space so they can continue to make plans for the show. Or the posts are aimed at retailers who are the show visitors, who they need to come and they need to find out what they're looking for, what they're needing, how they can best accommodate them. Or they're aimed at designers who are either visiting the show to get ideas perhaps about whether it's the right thing for them to exhibit at in future years, or people that are trying to persuade their company to exhibit, or people who are working with companies and they're thinking about opportunities and things like that. So most of the posts on the account are aimed at one of those for audiences. What you want to remember is you're the only person who sees 100% of your content. Oh, it's missing the T, sorry. You're the only person that sees 100% of what you post. So I know one of the questions that was sent in advance of this was, what do I do when I'm talking to a wholesale audience, but I'm also talking directly to customers who are buying, individual cards, ordering from my website? And you want to tailor the post when you're writing about that product to the person that it's aimed at. Don't worry if it's not talking to everybody. You need it to talk correctly to somebody, because not everybody will see everything that you post. And if it's not relevant to them, they will scroll past. The important thing is when it is relevant to them, that they like it, they engage with it, and they take action from it. So thinking about what, where, and when to post, and the biggest advice I can give on what to post is tell your story. Make sure people know who you are, what you do, what you make, what you sell, and how they can get in touch with you. People very much buy from people, as I'm sure you all know. You all understand kind of emotions and sentiments and what makes people buy certain products. But you don't want your Instagram to constantly be selling. You need to be building your brand awareness. You want to be sharing how you got to that journey, the end point of your journey. So a customer, say me, walks into a shop and I see a greeting card with a lovely picture on it. I don't know how you've got to that point. How did you decide that you wanted it to be purple or not blue? How did you decide that it was appropriate to be a square card, not a rectangle? How did you decide which sort of paper? All that kind of thing. I don't know that as a customer, but all of that information is important. And all of that is why your card is the success that it is. So tell your story, share the journey, make people really feel invested in part of it. And at the same time, share things like feedback. Customer reviews are really important. And my assumption is there aren't as many kind of online reviews of individuals that buy kind of one greeting card. It's not like when you book a holiday and you kind of think, yes, this was amazing, I've spent, you know, several £100s on it. Most greeting card purchases, I assume, are at lower price points. So think about other ways you can share feedback. Perhaps you could give feedback on your customers and say, thank you so much for all your orders and what it's meant to you. You could give feedback on the retailers that you work with. And if you're a retailer, perhaps give feedback on suppliers. Say the reason we love working with this designer is everything's always delivered and packaged perfectly on time, or, you know, the designs are funny, they resonate with our audience. Perhaps you could explain why, any of those kind of things, and share some sort of sneak peeks of what's coming up next. Everybody is nosy, and I'll kind of talk about that a bit more in a minute as well. I'm sure you probably know this already, but you can share images and videos to Instagram. Images can go onto the grid, they can be used in stories, and they can be used in reels. But all videos that you share on Instagram are automatically posted as a reel unless you share them to your stories or you do a live. And I'm not going to talk too much about lives today. I'm not sure how relevant it is to all of you, but with videos, the best advice I can give with a video is it literally brings your brand to life. And with something like a greeting card that I know it's been sort of touched on before, that you've all got beautiful images, but it can feel quite repetitive, because how many times can you just share an image of a card? For example, videos really bring it to life. So it can be whether it's you creating the card, packaging the orders, a stack of cards opening, stop motion, anything like that kind of will really make a difference and bring your account to life. So when to post, the correct answer is there is no correct time to post on Instagram. It's a question I always get asked. People say, when should I post? I've heard that posting at 9 a.m. is great, or I've heard you should post at tea time. And the answer is it should be a schedule that suits you. The most important thing is that you're consistent. Ideally, you want to say, we're going to post we're going to aim for 2 or 3 times a week or 10 times a month or whatever it might be. Find something that works for you, because the algorithm will reward you for being consistent. If you kind of constantly kind of post in a flurry and you do sort of 10 posts in 3 days and then you don't open the account for a month, Instagram doesn't know what to do with that. It doesn't know if you're somebody who's committed to it or not. And as a result, it won't show your content to as many people. So you really want to find a schedule that suits you and stick with that. So when you're posting, the best advice I can give is you want to think about, will this stop the scroll? And if you think about your own habit, if you're sat on the sofa or you're waiting for the kettle to boil and you're scrolling through Instagram, what makes you scroll past and what makes you think, actually, I really want to know what it is? You want your content to be intriguing. You want to kind of reveal more in the caption or reveal more on the next image. You don't want to give everything away at the beginning. And reels, for example, are a great way that you can do this, because in the first 2 or 3 seconds, you can say, watch this to find out. And everyone thinks, well, I want to know what they're going to share. You're kind of creating that buzz and that FOMO. If you share multiple images to one post on Instagram, it's called a carousel post, and that's when you can swipe across the images. And you might want to tease and say, swipe to find out, or swipe to see more, swipe to see this, whatever it might be, and share the story. You don't want to put everything in the image, because then people won't read the caption. Ideally, you want to kind of make people so intrigued about what's in the image that they're going to click on it, they're going to read the caption, and then they might take action from it. You want to sell, but you only want to sell sometimes. Don't use every single post to say, tap here to buy more, follow the link to visit my shop. You want to build your brand, you want to grow your audience. And a great analogy, I think, for this is if you have a shop, for example, if you said to every single person that walks in the door, come to the till right now to buy, they'd think, oh, it's a bit of a pushy sales assistant, and they'd walk away. But actually, if you greet your customer, you say, hi, let me know if there's anything I can help you with. If they're wandering in the shop for a while, you might say, oh, have you seen this? Or are you stuck for an idea? Think how you would treat somebody in real life and treat them the same on Instagram. You want to build that rapport and grow your audience. Once you've inspired loyalty and people continue to follow you, they start engaging with the majority of your posts, that's when sales will follow and they will happen. And again, I'll mention this later when I talk a little bit about insights, but remember that the number of people that like a post isn't a direct indication of how well that post has performed. because somebody may have scrolled past, but that doesn't mean you haven't kind of planted the seed in their mind that next time they're in that town, they're going to pop into their favorite card shop and buy the card or one similar to it from a range that you've talked about on Instagram. So you want to kind of really use it to build your brand and grow your audience. Think of it a bit like your shop window. How many times have you walked down a high street and thought, what a gorgeous shop window, I love that dress in the window, or trousers, whatever it might be, but you may not go in and buy it the first time. It may be the third or fourth or fifth time. It might not even be that month or even that year. It might be then later on you think, oh, I could do with something. Oh, they usually have lovely things in the window, let's go and see what they have to offer. And it's the same thing with Instagram. So when you're posting, there's a few different ways you can enhance posts, and particularly on stories and reels. And although Instagram is a bit cagey about how the algorithm works, and none of us really know, what they have said and what they say in their own brand pack is that if you use the tools that Instagram gives you, it'll help promote your content to more people. So in stories and reels, you can add stickers, which are things like the location tag. You can mention people, questions, music, polls. You can add your avatar, you can add a slider, links and things like that, and use them. And a new feature that has come out just in the last week or so some of you will have it and some of you may not have it yet, is you can now create your own stickers. So you can see in the image on the right on this one that if you search for greeting card, there's some generic ones, but there's now an option in the stickers called create. So I've created a sticker here. You can see I've created one of Jackie reading Progressive Greetings. And you can create your own bank of stickers that are saved on your Instagram. So you can use them again and again and again in your stories and your reels. And it really can personalize your content and bring it to life. So you might like to create one with your logo, for example. You might like to use you if you're somebody who likes appearing. If you've created a series of characters for your cards, perhaps you'd like to use one of your characters, whatever it might be. And it's as easy as tapping the button create. You select the image from your camera roll, and you can either accept the auto cut that it does, or you can manually choose one. And it's a really fun way of bringing your brand to life and kind of just reinforcing your brand messaging to your customers. You can also use apps like Giphy if you want, which can create stickers and GIFs that will sit in the Instagram search bar. So if you search for them in the way that you might search for, say, greeting card, you can find them come up and other people can then use them as well. Another really kind of popular question is about hashtags, and the answer is they are still relevant. You can use up to 30, and if Instagram gives you the option to do something, there's a reason for it. There's no point using 30 hashtags for the sake of it, but I would always recommend using some. If nothing else, they really focus you on thinking about, who am I talking to? Am I talking to retailers? Am I talking to customers? Am I talking to designers? What am I trying to do? Hashtags are clickable. Remember that if someone taps on the hashtag, it will take them away from your content, but that can sometimes be a good thing because it means they're trackable as well. So I'll use this as an example. On the PG Live account, we used hashtag PG Live on every post that we did, and we encouraged everybody who was at the show or visiting the show to use it as well. And in the week of the show, that hashtag was used over 5,000 times, which I could discover through Instagram Insight. I also use hashtag monitoring as part of my scheduler, which is Agorapulse as well. But that's really interesting that show is only on for 2 days in June. And in that week, it was used over 5,000 times. And that won't have been everybody at the show. Some people won't have used it. Some people might have added 2023 to it, or PG Live London, or they might have used Progressive Greetings Live, because no matter how many times you say something, people always will add their own spin on it. But it shows you the power of using a hashtag. It also means that anybody that used that hashtag, I could monitor it, I could follow it on Instagram, and I could reshare their content to the PG Live account, even if they haven't tagged the account in it. So it's definitely worth thinking about hashtags and how you can do it. Avoid using ones that are too generic. I never think it's a good idea to use something like hashtag love or hashtag family. They've got something like sort of 4 or 5 million plus posts on Instagram, which means you're going to disappear from the feed really quickly, and you could be shown to anyone all over the world, and it's just not relevant unless you're a real global company and with the ability to ship orders kind of every day all around the world, and that's one of your goals. you'll waste your time. You're then getting your content in front of people that aren't going to buy from you. You're much better using hashtags that are particularly relevant to your business and relevant to the location you're in, which is really important if you're a retailer or you sell directly to the public. Perhaps you take part in various markets or open studio events and things like that. And you want to reach people in a defined area. Geographic hashtags can be really useful. Audio, I could talk for hours about audio, and I'm sure it's something that some of you will have questions about. Bear in mind that different account types on Instagram have different music libraries. There are various licensing rules and regulations about what you can and can't do with music on Instagram. Creator accounts and business accounts will have different options, and personal accounts will have a different option again. I would advise against using a personal account for your business, because whilst you might think, oh, but this is how I get access to more audio, the reason it's got more audio is that audio isn't licensed to be available for commercial use. So there is always a potential that it could come back to haunt you in the future. The other reason not to use a personal account is you won't have access to scheduling or insights, which are really useful to find out who it is that's engaging with your content on Instagram. But you might want to consider switching between creator and business, depending whether you're a retailer, a supplier, a designer, etc. When you're using audio and you're choosing tracks to go alongside your stories and reels or your posts, because you can add audio to posts now, if you use a trending track, it might increase the reach of your reel in particular. And you can tell if it's a trending track because it'll have an arrow next to it in the music library. The reason to add audio to a post is that when someone's scrolling Instagram, they're more likely to stop if it's a track that they think, oh, I wonder why they've used that, or grabs their attention, or because it's a trending track, it'll get shown more often. But I wouldn't spend too long worrying about which song goes with a post, because a lot of people, remember, do scroll Instagram with the sound off, particularly if they're scrolling in the office or on the tube or something like that. You can also save audio, and I think this is a really good feature of Instagram. You can create a collection that's private or with others. So, for example, I run a lot of workshops locally in Winchester with a co-working space, and we have a shared collection of audio together, where if we're scrolling Instagram and we find a track that we really like and we think it'd be really fun to create a reel with it or something else, we'll put it into that library as a way of sharing it with each other. The advantage of saving audio as you go is when you think, oh, right, I've got a great idea for a reel, or I want to post something today, you don't have to think, oh, I can't remember what that song was, or, oh, what was it? Or somebody else did something. You've just got it there and it's ready to go. And you can find it by tapping what's known as the burger menu on Instagram, which is the 3 lines in the top right-hand corner. And you can see all of your saved audio in there. So I've got a few examples that I'd like to show you about sort of creating engaging content. And these are all things that were filmed kind of off the cuff at PG Live on day 2 last year. If the music doesn't work, bear with me, because I know there's a lot of people on the webinar and sometimes that might affect it. But this example is a series of photos that the PG team, and some of you maybe even, took of your setting up on the first day of setup for the show. And I set those to a template within Reels. It probably took 3 or 4 minutes to do the whole thing in total. I had the photos, I uploaded them, and just put something like setup day 1. In the caption, it said, you know, can you spot yourself? Which stand do you think is going to look like this, or something like that, or kind of, you know, what do you think it's going to look like? And it created real intrigue, and people really wanted to kind of find out more, and everybody started commenting on saying, we're coming, we can't wait till we get there. This next example is, again, this took a couple of minutes to do, and I just filmed these ladies popping up at their stand with a track that was trending back in June, and it instantly resonated with people because people wanted to know what they were going to show. They were tapping on it, they were clicking on it. Friends were saying, oh, this is amazing, you look fab, how's the show going, hope you have a great time. So things like that you can do that really kind of inspire intrigue are a great way of kind of really boosting your content strategy. This next one was upstairs in the springboard area, I think it is, of PG Live, where I spent a bit of time with some of the exhibitors filming a few little clips that we then put together to tracks that were trending, particularly at the time. They may not be still trending now, just to showcase a few people. And we did these as collaboration reels, which is where they appear on both Instagram accounts. And you can do collaboration posts as well as reels. And the advantage is you'll reach a new audience. So anybody that wasn't already following Laura was able to then follow her directly from the reel, but also she would have had followers that didn't know about PG Live, and they could have then visited that account to find out more. And this example just kind of shows how you can use the stickers that Instagram gives you. So this has the slider of who's happy to be at PG Live, and it got a great response. So many people slid that slider along to the far right and then commented to say why they were happy to be there and how much fun they were having, that they'd have a brilliant show and things like that. And it just kind of shows that anything you can do that encourages audience interaction and puts people in front of the camera, everybody loves to see. And that really needs to sit as part of your content strategy. Think, how am I going to bring my brand to life? These ones I'm going to play without the sound on, and they all just should play at the same time. But these are ways that you can engage your viewer, engage your audience. And the reason I've included this slide is that you should all be thinking about Instagram Reels if you're not already. And something we might do, Adriana and I have talked about perhaps doing a specific session on Reels for you if there's interest in it. Because the advantage of Reels is they're shown to people who don't already follow you. You want to use this to your advantage. You want to create intrigue, so viewers want to know what's going to happen next in the reel, but also they want to then tap on your profile and find out who you are, what you do, and ideally follow you, so you can then start sharing your products, your business, your services with them. And these are all reels that I filmed directly in the Reels app using different features and different transitions and things, but they just show you a bit of an idea of the types of content you can create, but without having any fancy equipment. Most of these are done with my phone just kind of propped up or held in my hand, using Instagram directly. So just to check everyone's still paying attention, I thought I'd put a couple of random photos up to say, think about hanging out in the kitchen and how that is similar to Instagram. So I'm sure some of you remember that IKEA advert where everyone says you always hang out in the kitchen at parties. And think about Instagram as being a place, you want it to be the kitchen at a party, you want it to be where everyone is, where the best people are hanging out, where the most fun is happening and where the conversations are taking place. You don't want your Instagram feed to feel like the kind of the stuffy, boring side, the corporate side. You want it to be the side where the fun is happening. It's where you can really show the creativity behind your business. And all of you have got amazing creative businesses. That's why you're in an industry like greeting cards. And everything can be really exciting. You might think that what you're talking about isn't that interesting. Perhaps you make envelopes and you might think, I don't know how many times I can talk about how we make an envelope exciting. But to someone who's never made an envelope, your content will be really, really interesting. And think about the kind of the in-jokes, the fun, all that side of it. And if you're somebody who says, actually, but I don't have a great content bank, I'm a service-based business, I kind of, I don't know how I can make my Instagram exciting. Think about who is in your business and why are they interesting. An account that is always worth looking at on social media, and I'm sure some of you follow them, is Innocent Drinks. They kind of very rarely post about their drinks on Instagram, but they share a lot of their team members, a lot of the fun that they're all having in the office. They talk about the office banter around, who's had a disaster doing something for the bake-off each week in the office, whatever it might be like that. And they create intrigue. People engage with their content because they find it really fun. And Innocent is kind of, the seed is planted in the audience's mind that Innocent is a fun brand. It's run by people that really value what they're working in. And when they next go into their local Waitrose or Tesco or whatever it is, and they see an Innocent drink on the shelf, they're more likely to buy it over a brand that they've never heard of. So kind of think about hanging out in the kitchen and what you would do in the kitchen if Instagram was your kitchen. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So when you're creating your content strategy, you want to really be thinking about, how can I create FOMO? You want everybody to wish they were part of whatever it is you're doing. You want them to wish that they were customers. You want them to wish that they were sent one of your cards. You want them to think that they're at your event, for example. And I've popped a couple of examples up here these are from the PG Live account, of how we created a real buzz in the week of the show. We made people feel like they were really missing out if they weren't there. So any retailer that didn't go to the show, next year should want to come, because I think, you know what, last year I felt that everybody was posting about this most amazing time that they were having, and I wasn't part of it, and I want to be part of it. So you want to think about how you can create FOMO. You also want to think about how you can create content that will resonate with people that don't already follow you. So you can see here that on the example on the left, we've reached sort of 9,126 followers in that 30-day period back just before the show and slightly after it. And that's really important, because the content was obviously resonating with enough people that they were sharing it, they were engaging, and they were commenting, that Instagram was showing it to more people, and that it was showing our content to people that weren't already following the account. And that's important, because you've created that FOMO, you've encouraged people to then find out more about you, to visit your profile, to hopefully follow you, and ideally engage with your business, and then attend your event next year, buy from you, add you to their favorites, add you to their wish list, and things like that. So I was thinking about content for greeting cards, and I imagine that a lot of you think, oh, but you know, when I photograph a card, it doesn't look that exciting, it's another card. Or if you have all your cards on display, there's only so many times you want to use that photo. So tell your story. Think about how you got to that. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Think about, how did you decide what shape the card was going to be, what size it was going to be, how you were going to print it, whether you were going to add anything, hand finished embellishments or anything like that. So the image can grab attention, but don't forget the caption. Kind of, you know, make sure that the caption builds on whatever's in the image. And I thought I'd use the example that the GCA have done for Thinking of You Week with send a card and deliver a smile. Think of this when you're creating your content for Instagram. You want people to smile when they see your post. You want them to think, oh, what a lovely idea. Oh, that's lovely. I love that idea. And you don't necessarily have to think about all your content being your product. Perhaps you can share photos of your team members. You can share kind of the behind the scenes and what goes into it. You want people to think, oh, that's more than just a card. Somebody's really paid attention to that. There's a process. That's how they've got there. And some of you may have other ranges outside of cards as well. And don't be afraid to share everything that you do on your Instagram. So building on that, we're all really nosy. Ultimately, humans are really, really nosy. And share the whole story, share who designs the cards, be a bit tongue-in-cheek. Do designers really smile every day? My image of designers is they all sit in these beautiful studios and they're always really happy and really chilled out. I bet there's things that go wrong all the time. I bet there's moments where you just want to throw your pen and paper out the window, or whatever it is you're creating your cards on. And share things that the general public wouldn't know, that your customers wouldn't know. So if your cards are all printed in the UK, tell us that. I don't necessarily know where all the card printers are. I also don't know how cards are printed. Does somebody sit there feeding in an individual card each time, or do they put in a giant sheet that's then cut up? All that sort of information that's interesting to people that aren't in the industry, that aren't in the business. Some of the best kind of viral reels on something like on Instagram or on TikTok, and whilst you can never plan to go viral, it is a bit hit and miss. Some of them are those things that people go, wow, I never knew they did it like that. There was a craze last year where everyone was watching how carpets were made, because people didn't realize how they were cut to size and how they were done like that. So things that might seem really ordinary to you, but are not ordinary to everybody else. I think, how do you make coloured card, for example? I don't know how a piece of paper turns into a pink card or a red card, a blue card. How do you put the glitter on? How do you make it shiny? What makes it different? Share all those things that you might think are really boring and not very exciting, and they're just something that you all accept and you all know. But somebody like me, who is a customer and someone who's going to go out and buy the card, wouldn't know that. And I'll be intrigued. I'll want to follow you. I'll want to see behind the scenes of how you do it. There's a reason cake decorating reels and photos are so popular on Instagram, because everybody thinks, oh, well, it's just a cake, but how on earth did you get that to stand up or do that, or whatever it might be? And it's the same with cards. You can create that real intrigue. And who's the unsung hero, for example, in your company? It might be you might be a designer that does everything yourself, and you're a company with just 1 or 2 of you in it. But perhaps your unsung hero is the postman that brings you your Nespresso delivery, or perhaps your unsung hero is your mum who buys your cards the first time they come out and shouts about them. Perhaps your unsung hero is the buyer at a large card company who took a you know, took a punt and took you on before you were a big brand, something like that. And share funny things. Something I was thinking about when I was thinking about content for card businesses was, how do you get the sticky bit on an envelope? Like, does someone sit there kind of pulling off double-sided tape and putting it on? I don't know. Maybe there's a funny story in that. Has there ever been any kind of card disasters? Is kind of, what's the most hazardous thing that happens to a greeting card designer? Do you get paper cuts? Something like that. And have a bit of fun. What do card designers eat for breakfast? What do card retailers eat for breakfast? Somebody was eating breakfast earlier when we logged on to Zoom, and it's that kind of thing that people want to see on Instagram. Remember that people buy from people, and it's all about kind of your brand awareness and knowing, liking, and trusting who you're buying from. And something else that my daughter actually said this one, she said, who sticks on the googly eyes? Are they done by a machine, or is there somebody somewhere sticking on googly eyes onto a greeting card? So these are other examples from the PG account, but it just shows that social media builds trust. And it kind of puts faith in what everybody does. So the more that you post, the more you will see your engagement will you'll reach, and you'll start to notice that posts go from sort of maybe a few likes to sort of 80 likes, 90 likes, 100 likes. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, and it's not an exact science. You can never predict it, but I thought this middle example was quite nice because it shows the team at Max getting ready for PG Live. They were putting the goodie bags together, they were organising things, and it shows that the people who put on events are ordinary people. It shows that they are people that get together, that they're a happy team and they work together. And for the same reason, you want to use your Instagram to build trust and to really show that kind of, you know, everybody in your business is an ordinary person and you're all kind of smiley, happy people. And that's why ultimately people on Instagram will follow you, because they'll think, you know what, they seem a really genuine, nice person. I'd love to support their business. So this is a little clip that I quite like about kind of, you never know who's watching, and don't get fixated too much on the vanity metrics. Yes, we all like likes and followers, and there's kind of that sort of dopamine hit of, oh yes, I've reached 5,000 followers, yes, I've reached 10,000 followers, yes, I've reached my first 100 followers. Every milestone is important, and it's not the number that counts, it's the quality. It's a bit like when I was saying you don't want to use too many generic hashtags, for example. You want to have the quality of people visiting your account. There's no point having 100,000 followers if 90,000 of them aren't in the UK and aren't going to send a greeting card. You want people that are going to buy from you. And remember, you can't track every single insight. You can't track how many people screenshotted. You can't track how many people said to their partner on the sofa, I really like this, by the way, buy this for me for Christmas. It's what people do next that counts, and you want to kind of build your audience steadily, because you never know who's watching and you never know what's going to happen. There's a great example a few years ago in the company I was working with, and I kind of came out and I thought, oh, like that presentation went really badly. I don't think they're going to sign the license. There's no way this retailer is going to want to take it on. And as I left, I was in the lift with somebody, and I sort of said about the brand I'd been presenting, and they said, oh, how did your meeting go? And I said, oh, not sure, I sort of did the best job or whatever. It turned out later on that that person I was in the lift with was the accountant at the company, but his daughter absolutely loved the brand I was presenting, and he thought there was something in it. He went back in, he told the team I've met with, I think we should do this, we should take a gamble, and it worked. So it just shows you never know who's listening, you never know who's watching, and you never know what's going to happen next. So keep posting, and don't always worry about if that particular post has got the likes and things that you wanted it to. So that brings me to the end. Hopefully I've sort of kept to time of my kind of formal presentation. I'll come off screen share in a minute, and then anyone that wants to show their camera and unmute themselves and ask questions, please do, and I'll do my best to answer them. I've popped my details on the screen again there as well. And yeah, if you have any particular questions and want to ask on Instagram, if you're kind of posting something and you think, I've got a bit stuck, I can't remember how to do this, or have you got any advice, or send me a screenshot, send me a link to your profile and I can see how I can help you, then feel free. So I'll do that. I'll open up the chat and see what questions have come there.